But I want to say something first about the wider notion of mutualism, because cooperatives, as we generally understand them, are only one particular case of the philosophy of mutualism, which I suppose is summed up by that old trade union phrase, all for one and one for all. But when you think of it, there have been a lot more applications than are illustrated either by the Rochdale cooperatives and the great consumer cooperatives throughout Europe, and for that matter at one stage in this country, or the credit union movement. For example, farmers. Farmers don't just need carry-on capital of the sort that Fabians taught them to mobilise through a credit union. Farmers need to capture some of the value that is added to their product beyond the farm gate. That product which my forebears in the labour movement used to refer to as being stolen by the middleman. How do you stop the middleman pillaging your potential for capturing value beyond the farm gate? Well, you form a cooperative for that purpose, and it becomes the processing and marketing arm of your business, the business of your fellow farmers. And not so very long ago, virtually every branch of farming in Australia predominantly looked to cooperatives for that particular function. Virtually all our milk, for example, was processed and marketed through cooperatives, of which I suppose the best known example, one familiar to most people, would be the Murray-Goulburn cooperative, which remains a great cooperative. Working class people in the late 18th century and 19th century had no recourse to be getting themselves buried when they died. They could at best expect pauper funerals. What did they do? They formed something which we would now describe as a friendly society. The original friendly societies were burial cooperatives. And after a while, people absorbed the happy experience that at the end of their lives there would be a provision for the coffin, for the clergyman, for the interment, and thought, well, if it works for me after I'm dead, mightn't it be a good idea if we also put the same principle to work in the same organisation to ensure that I got the medical attention which might have deferred my demise. And so the friendly societies became deliverers of medical attendance, and they developed a bit further and they became deliverers of access to hospital care. And at a later stage in their development, they added retirement villages. In other words, there was a whole dimension of what we would now describe as social services, which were delivered through mutualist organisations described as friendly societies. Those same people were aware that middle-class people had something called life insurance, that when they died, there was some money available for which a contribution had been paid over time, which would provide a nest egg for the family after their death. And so the first mutual life assurance funds were formed. And those mutual life funds became vast organisations, huge pools of capital, which both served the purpose of delivering the insurance product, or the assurance product, to be technical, and which made that capital available to governments, also to the private sector, but very largely to governments, for what we would now describe as infrastructure investment. And of course there's another application again. The friendly society, people who formed those friendly societies, who started getting those medical benefits, hospital access, burial provisions, had another idea, and that was that if they applied the principle to their workplaces and worked together in negotiation with their employers on a cooperative basis, they might do rather better than they'd been doing in isolation from one another. And the trade union movement was born out of the friendly societies, just as the Labour Party in its turn was born out of the trade union movement. So you can see what a key role this notion of mutualism has played over a period, I guess getting on now for 300 years in one way and another.